Tonight, Justin Trudeau loses 2 cabinet ministers, including his deputy prime minister. One local MP says he didn't see it coming. That story. And
he went to work that morning and he never come home, and it wasn't his fault.
her husband died after a workplace explosion. Tonight, Nora Gill-Peddle is questioning why more employers don't face criminal charges.
Our members are talking, they're mad. They've been out on the line, their families have suffered, their finances have suffered, and again, we don't have a collective agreement.
And yet, mail might be moving again as soon as tomorrow, with workers mandated back.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. It's sending shockwaves right across the country and sparking calls for Justin Trudeau to step down. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland resigned today, and she's not the only cabinet minister to go. An outspoken MP for this province says he didn't see the signs. Here Now's Heather Gillis reports.
Surprised.
This Liberal MP for Avalon says he didn't see it coming. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has called it quits after Justin Trudeau tried to oust her from the finance portfolio.
Never had an inkling that there was going to be any resignations.
Freeland resigned hours before she was set to deliver the fall economic statement, sending shockwaves through Ottawa and beyond. Freeland says she no longer has the Prime Minister's confidence. The pair have been at odds, she says, about whether Canada can afford, quote, costly political gimmicks as it faces threats of tariffs from the incoming U.S. President, Donald Trump. Ken McDonald says Freeland leaves big shoes to fill.
Well, I don't think anyone can replace her. The job that she did. I think she done a wonderful job.
McDonald is no stranger to political upheaval, breaking ranks from the Liberals voting to repeal the carbon tax and to increase old age security, calling for a review of Trudeau's leadership. But McDonald thinks the Prime Minister will pull through.
It's basically his decision if he wants to stay or go. And I think he's into it for the long haul.
She's not alone. Housing Minister Sean Fraser announced his resignation today, another shake-up in the PM's inner circle. Meanwhile, opposition leaders are calling on Trudeau to step down.
And if the fall economic update is defeated, then it would be a non-confidence vote and we would proceed to a carbon tax election.
They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
If an election is triggered soon, Poilievre would like to see one happen before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is sworn in on January 20th because any tariffs are expected to be implemented shortly thereafter. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, striking Canada Post workers have not committed to returning to work tomorrow. Earlier today, the Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered the striking workers to return to work, but Craig Dyer, a leader with the Canadian Union of Public Workers in St. John's, says it's not clear if they'll respect that order.
I can't say if we're going back to work tomorrow. There's an awful lot of anguish on our lines here at St. John's. There's an awful lot of confusion. There's an awful lot of sadness. Our members are mad. This is not the first time the Canada Post has done this to us. It's actually twice before they legislated us back to work. We're just waiting for direction.
Now, Canada Post tells CBC it does expect employees to return to work tomorrow and is promising a $1,000 payment for full-time employees before Christmas, $500 for part-timers. Its collective agreement with employees has been extended to May 2025. Well, in other news, it's been more than 2 years since 8 workers were seriously injured in an explosion at the Come-By-Chance refinery. One of those men later died in hospital. Now his widow, Nora Gill-Peddle, is questioning whether amendments to criminal law prompted by the Westray mining disaster decades ago are having any real effect in holding employers accountable. The CBC's Rob Antle has this special report.
Yeah, that was oldest son's graduation. That's the one they use for the obituary.
Mementos and memories are now all that remain, tucked away in the corner of Nora Gill-Peddle's living room.
He always said, and lots of people say, it's going to be an accident someday. Something is going to happen. Someone's going to get hurt. there's no way I'm getting caught up in that. No way I'm not going to get hurt at work. I'm going to do all my safety and I'm going to do everything. And he went to work that morning and he never come home, and it wasn't his fault.
2 summers ago, Nora and Sean had just moved into this house. She was unpacking and putting up photos when she got the call that would change everything.
I had my phone and I was texting him saying, look, good wifey. I had pictures on the wall and that. I was texting when my phone rang, and it was a friend of ours. And he said, Nora, anyone called you? And I'm like, no, why? I think you need to go to the hospital. Of course, I said, why? He said, just go to the hospital now.
An explosion at the Brea refinery in Cumby had seriously injured 8 workers. Sean Peddle was one of those medevaced from the hospital in Clarenville to St. John's that night.
Got him out there and we spent 43 days in ICU, just hoping to see him at 10-minute snippets every single day. But until he passed, and once we realized he wasn't healing. The rest of the guys were healing and moving to the burn ward. He was not.
But he fought for a long time.
He absolutely did. Yeah. He was tough.
Brea Renewable Fuels and a contractor at the refinery are now facing occupational health and safety charges over what happened 2 years ago. No pleas have been entered yet, but Brea has stressed that it's committed to safety.
The RCMP launched a criminal investigation. No criminal charges have been filed. The law was changed 20 years ago to make it easier to do just that in the case of deaths in the workplace. But some people say that law, which came out of another tragedy, isn't being used enough. One of them is Nora Gill Peddle.
In 1992, 26 miners died after an explosion at the Westray mine in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. 5 years later, a public inquiry would draw damning conclusions. Management that was significantly derelict in its duty to the workforce. Poor government oversight.
The tale that unfolds in the ensuing narrative is the Westray story. It is a story of incompetence, of mismanagement, of bureaucratic bungling, of deceit, of ruthlessness, of cover-up, of apathy, of expediency, and of cynical indifference.
The inquiry's report included this recommendation.
Should introduce into the Parliament of Canada such amendments to legislation as are necessary to ensure that corporate executives and directors are held properly accountable for workplace safety. Does that answer your question?
In 2004, the Westray Law finally passed. Now, 2 decades later, labor groups are critical of how those initial intentions have translated into actions.
So in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have had no charges under the Westray Law in the case of workplace fatalities in this province.
And that's something Jessica McCormick calls very frustrating and concerning.
I mean, the law is incredibly important because it provides deterrent to employers. I mean, the goal is not to put a bunch of people in jail. The goal is to provide the conditions that put pressure on employers to create safe workplaces. At the end of the day, that is the ultimate goal, that every worker comes home safe.
But the reality is, 20 years later, it's still not being utilized. And it was a historic achievement, but at the same time, a historic failure 20 years later.
Nationally, the United Steelworkers pushed to get the law through. Now, the union tracks how many times it's actually been used. Over 2 decades up to the spring of this year, they found just 26 incidents where the Westray amendments were used to bring criminal negligence charges in cases of serious worker injury and death, and only 11 successful prosecutions. About 1,000 workers a year die due to work-related causes, a third of those by fatal injuries, the rest related to occupational diseases.
So the problem is there's no political will. They figured, okay, we got a law on the books, now we're good and we can move on to other things. And the reality is they really aren't putting any effort into it.
Police in Newfoundland and Labrador say they've had training done for their officers specifically related to workplace accidents.
When it comes to criminal investigations, we had to meet a threshold of reasonable and probable grounds that an offence has occurred, and that would include the level of intent.
Nationally, the RCMP says thousands of people have taken a course designed for investigators and law enforcement officials. A senior Mountie stresses that there's a big difference between workplace safety regulations and the high bar that must be met under the criminal process.
I think it's important to understand the thresholds. So when we're talking about a police-led criminal investigation in the workplace, we're typically looking at offenses such as criminal negligence. Criminal negligence, as it's defined in the criminal code, it's when there's a display of wanton, reckless disregard for lives. This is actually a very high evidentiary threshold.
Pillay has a quarter-century of experience with the force. He challenges the belief that the Westray law is being underutilized.
Well, I don't agree that it's not being used enough. We have very clear policy that when a workplace fatality occurs, we investigate it as a crime first.
The police stress they're enforcing the laws as they're on the books. But some people say that's the problem, and it's the law that needs to be looked at.
Well, the short answer to that is it hasn't worked. And many would go as far, including myself, to say that it is relatively useless as a piece of legislation.
This criminology professor says the law hasn't really been on anybody's political radar since it was introduced, and he thinks that should change.
It's incumbent, I think, upon the government to look into why it's not working and make changes if it isn't, because it is a serious piece of legislation.
The Federal Justice Department says it has taken a number of steps, like helping develop training resources for cops and Crown prosecutors. But it offered no specifics when asked about calls for a review of the law to see whether it's working as intended and how they gauge the success of legislation like Westray. The department offered only a broad response, saying the Department of Justice reviews on an ongoing basis the implementation of criminal law in order to support the Minister of Justice to fulfill his mandate in relation to the criminal code. Back in Clarenville, summer has turned to fall, and Nora Gill-Peddle is back in court, where workplace safety charges related to her husband's death continue to inch forward. It's the third court appearance so far, with 2 more already scheduled in the coming weeks, bookending the Christmas holidays. These are the milestones in her life now, the ones which should have brought happiness, now more bitter than sweet. Nora and Sean were born just 6 days apart and had big plans for a big birthday this fall.
We've spent years just dreaming about, oh, what's our 50th going to be like? We need to plan our 50th. Where are we going to go away? Are we going to do something? We always had big parties. Had all the friends over, and Sean was just like, have everybody. This year is our 50th, and it's hard to celebrate it without him. It's a milestone that he should have been here for. That was taken from us, and it'll never be the same.
She believes there is creeping complacency about workplace deaths and wishes there was political will to address the issue. And if she could have 30 seconds with one of those political decision makers, what would she say?
I'd say listen to the people who've been saying that this legislation needs to be revisited, revamped. Go to your experts, look at the stats, and see why it's not being utilised the way that Westray was supposed to. It's a waste of money and people's time to have legislation on the books that are ineffective. It's just a waste. And people are dying because of it. Do it for Sean, if no one else.
Rob Antle, CBC News, Clarenville.
Well, the weather over the weekend was fairly quiet for some of us, most seeing some snow squalls on the west coast. Taking a look at the temperatures today, 1 to about 6 degrees across the island, up across Labrador, sitting in the minus single digits for the most part. And we've got a nice big ridge of high pressure that is keeping things quiet for now anyway. And we do have some colder air up across the big land that is going to lead to snow over the next couple of days for you. As we take a look at the weather on the way headlines, mostly quiet, but some snow. I'll get into the details coming up.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped? Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Inuk First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Another smash and grab robbery to tell you about, this time at the Royal Bank in Holyrood, and the damage is severe. RCMP have arrested 4 people and seized a number of vehicles and heavy equipment, including a dump truck carrying an ATM. Police say thieves first stole a backhoe to break into the bank. Radio Canada's Patrick Butler spoke with a woman who works near the scene.
You can see right through the building from the front. You can see right through to the back window. I just heard it on the radio just before I got to work. Okay. They didn't say what business at the time. They just said the backhoe bandits were back again.
Just the amount of damage that was there, would it have to have been done by something with a lot of power?
Oh, for sure. And not just once. By the looks of the damage, I think they probably hit it a few times by the looks of it. It's a mess. There's wood, there's debris, there's a steel beam actually that's bent.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Well, the town of Conception Bay South has shut its water off to make emergency repairs. There's a break in the transmission water main. The town says residents across town will be affected, especially those in higher elevations. It says households are likely going to experience low or no water pressure until at least late tomorrow morning. Updates are being posted on the town's website. And one of 4 generating units at Muskrat Falls is out of service until next May. Unit 2 has to be completely dismantled because of a hydrogen embrittlement problem, which increases the risks of corrosion. The issue dates back until at least 2021, and the manufacturer is footing the bill. NL Hydro says it will be able to meet all power demands while the work is underway. Hydrogen embrittlement does not appear to be an issue in 2 of the other units. An inspection of a 4th unit is tentatively scheduled for 2026. Returning now to our Canada Post coverage, as we reported earlier, after a month on strike, workers have been mandated to return to the job as soon as tomorrow, though the union in St. John says that still isn't for certain. It's a busy time of year to have the country's mail service in upheaval, so how do holiday shoppers feel about this news? We hit the streets of Corner Brook to ask.
Well, there's not much we could really do about it. I mean, they went on strike and they felt it was necessary, so.
At the end of the day, money doesn't go as far as it used to. You know, you need to make a little more to get by. Everyone deserves a good contract at the end of the day.
If they haven't had any raises in 2 or 3 years and know what the cost of living went up in the past, say, 5 years, they should have a little more.
I mean, it's definitely misplaced a lot of people's packages, and a lot of people have canceled orders, but then sometimes they end up showing up. But for ourselves, like everything with Amazon or any online purchase, now we have to just sort of wait and get it later or something like that, you know. I'm in here today. I just had to drive 3 hours to come get a bit of stuff from Christmas. So, I mean, I was away and didn't have time to get here before, so now it's kind of last minute just getting in to get some shopping done. Oh, it's the best. You know, it's much easier just to go to the mailbox and grab your stuff and whatever, instead of trying to figure out how you're going to get everything to, especially where we live in Rocky Harbour.
Especially, I work with a lot of low-income individuals, so I can see that being a big savings.
I usually have my shopping done, well, most of it done by now.
Well, Ottawa's tax holiday kicked off over the weekend, which means some relief for shoppers who are now paying less for pre-made meals, diapers, and books at the checkout. Tax holiday will be in place until February 15th. Time for a look at the forecast with Ashley, and chilly one out there today for sure.
At least to start, it certainly was for a good chunk of the island and up across Labrador. Let's take a look at what the temperatures were as our overnight lows or morning. Temperature somewhere in the minus single digits, dipping a little bit more in low-lying areas. Definitely had to scrape off the car this morning. Up across Labrador, generally sitting into the minus single digits, -9 in Lab City this morning. Now, temperatures climbed a little bit this afternoon. Here's the past 12-hour temperatures in St. John's, up to about 2 degrees by mid-afternoon. And the winds are generally out of the west, albeit fairly light. A little bit of a wind chill out there, though, for sure. Temperatures are sitting around 1 now in St. John's, generally in the minus single digits to the west and up across Labrador as well. Generally between 0 and about -5, the coldest temperatures right now in Lab West. As we head through the night and into the first part of tomorrow, we're really starting to see some of that cloud cover up across Labrador, with this clockwise rotation, and that is spinning around an area of high pressure, and that's the way that the winds or the rotation around a ridge of high pressure. And we've got our area of low pressure just to the west. That's going to be our next weather maker, and that's going to bring some snow as we head through the night and into the first part of tomorrow up across parts of Labrador. Now we'll see that move in through the overnight, mainly to the north is where we'll see those the snow start. But to the south, that area of high pressure definitely keeping things quiet tonight and clear for most of us. Those clouds might be maybe on the increase as we head towards the early morning hours for the west coast, which may bring a few flurries with it. But overall, temperatures tonight are going to be below 0, near or just a little bit below 0, somewhere between 0 and about -5. Winds will be either out of the west or southwest, very much like what we're seeing right now, generally between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. And then up across Labrador, minus single digits between -4 and -8 as our overnight lows. As we head into tomorrow, we are going to see those clouds on the increase, like I said, up across Labrador, with the periods of snow starting in the west for the first part of the day, and then a beautiful start to the day for most of Newfoundland as well. Clouds will be on the increase, so like I said, a few flurries certainly possible for the west, but that will give way to maybe even some sun and cloud through the afternoon, then some rain will move in for those of you on the west coast. Temperatures are really going to start to warm up, and we'll see some windy conditions with that one as well as this front moves through, and it's going to bring that rain through central areas of the island as we head through the overnight, and then eventually by midnight for the Avalon. The snow will continue up across Labrador through most of the day. Now this towards the coast will be a different story. You're either looking at some periods of showers or some flurries through the afternoon as well. Now, as far as the snowfall amounts go, most of it probably about 5 to 10 centimeters. Again, the coast likely not seeing anything, maybe a trace, but for the most part, this will be a north coast, western portion of Labrador and through central where you see most of that accumulation. And then as far as that rain goes across the island, southern areas of the island will likely see the most of this, and we could be talking about 20 to as much as 30 millimeters of rain falling from Tuesday night into Wednesday. Overall daytime highs tomorrow will be 3 to 4 degrees through the afternoon. Southwesterlies will be gusting between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now the west coast, like I said, you may see a few flurries to start and maybe a few peaks of sun in the afternoon, but overall daytime highs will be between 4 and 7 degrees, but your winds will ramp up. Southerlies will be gusting somewhere between 40 to 70 kilometers per hour in the evening, and that will continue through the first part of Wednesday. Overall, daytime highs across Labrador, especially towards the coast, will be hovering near or maybe a degree or two above 0, which is why we'll see some of that fall as rain. Otherwise, the rest of the big land should see those temperatures a little bit below 0, a couple degrees there, somewhere between -2 and -3. and those southerly winds will still be gusting between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. So that's a look at your Tuesday forecast. Things will get a little warmer as we head towards the end of the week, and I'll break that forecast down for you coming up a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the GST and HST holiday kicked off this weekend. From now until Valentine's Day, Canadians will be saving on food, drink, children's items, and more. So how are shoppers and business owners making the best of the 2-month saving spree? The CBC's Julia Israel found out.
For the next 2 months, the country is going to be saving on holiday items from Christmas shopping up until Valentine's Day. I'm going around St. John's to figure out how people are thinking about this saving spree. Have you been benefiting from the tax-free holiday today?
So far, yes.
Yeah. What did you buy in there?
TV, food, groceries, just normal stuff.
We got some groceries now this morning at a different location. It's nice to see the taxes like off of everything.
Hopefully toilet paper and, household stuff, and then maybe some chocolate for Christmas.
We roughly saved definitely over $100 today.
I think it's definitely going to be good for everybody and, all the provinces kind of coming together because, right now with inflation and everything, it's really hard to get by. Even myself and my fiance, we both have really well-paying jobs and, we find it hard to make ends meet some days. So I can't imagine what some other people are going through.
I think it's pretty good. I said it's not just like the needs, especially this time of year. Sometimes the wants are important. Like I said, people don't need like chips and soda, but it's something everyone's get for holidays, and not to mention the other things like the children's clothing and toys. Like that's gonna help so many families out this time of year.
Were you waiting to do some shopping until today?
Well, no, I had to get some stuff earlier, but I forgot about today until today, and now I'm excited about today.
I usually have my shopping done, well, most of it done by now. I think I'm just more aware of how this is going to affect small businesses. It's probably going to be a challenge for them to switch and then switch back again.
There are so many variations of what is tax-free and what's not. So in our case, we decided to go with everything for the 2 days.
Versus the whole 2 months, right?
Yes, not for the 2 months.
Definitely had to check the CRA website a few times, make sure I knew all the rules. Most of the store is tax-free, so books, graphic novels, manga, all the board games, or I should say most of the board games. There's a bit of confusion about like the figures, so toys that are designed to play with are tax-free, but then like a statue isn't. So yeah, there's a bit of nuance there.
How did you figure out the nuance?
I'm hoping CRA is going to be nice.
A little act of kindness from children at a daycare in Grand Falls, Windsor has warmed the hearts of some postal workers here on the picket line.
It just kind of shows the true meaning of Christmas.
When I turned the corner and I seen the kids there, it just, it was heartwarming.
We'll have that story tonight on Here and Now.
Now back to our top story. Justin Trudeau's inner circle got quite the shakeup today with the unexpected resignation of 2 cabinet ministers, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, as well as Housing Minister Sean Fraser. Late this afternoon, Dominic LeBlanc was sworn in as the new Finance Minister. The MP for Avalon says he didn't see this coming. Ken McDonald spoke with the CBC's Heather Gillis earlier today and says Canada's next Finance Minister has big shoes to fill.
Surprised I was to hear that this morning, and then to hear as well Sean Fraser. Never had an inkling that there was going to be any resignations.
What do you think they mean for government now and its stability?
I don't know. There's always somebody waiting to come into a position if they can get it. So I think it'll be a pretty smooth transition. In regards to Chrystia Freeland's, I think it takes a special person to be the financial person for the government, and as well to be the Prime Minister alternate, you could say, right? So, I mean, she had a lot of responsibility. So it's not everybody can stand up and do that particular position, I think.
Is there anyone in your mind that you know in the Liberal caucus right now that's standing out as a front runner who could replace Freeland?
Not a soul. Not a soul. I don't think anyone can replace her. The job that she did. I think she done a wonderful job. And the same for Sean Fraser. Sean Fraser has been excellent as a MP, as a parliamentary secretary, and as a minister, regardless of the role he was in. He was one of the people you could count on who was going to stand up and give an answer in question period, and instead of just saying something foolish about it for an answer, he delivered a real answer every time. I don't think it's easy to take someone just out of the public and ask that person to be a cabinet minister, let alone the finance minister. And if Mark Carney walked in here today, I wouldn't know who he was. So he's not somebody I think that people, if they see his picture, they know exactly who it is. If he showed up on a TV screen, they'd have to have the name down below it for me to know who it was. Yeah. Chrystia Freeland, to me, is a very smart individual. So whatever way she's using that word, she had a reason to put it there, I'm sure. But I don't know why she would call it. And it's true, any minister. The Prime Minister has to have confidence in that person to be the minister, and whoever the minister is has to have confidence in the Prime Minister as well. Because sometimes a Prime Minister might be looking to do this as a program, and the Prime Minister might think, no, that's not the right way to go, we should probably go another direction. So that, I think, is what she's talking about for confidence.
Yeah, and she said in the letter too that they've been at odds over the last little while. Have you seen any of that in your experience as a member of the Liberal caucus?
Not a bit. And I mean, they sit literally side by side in the House of Commons, so I haven't seen anything that would indicate there was a falling out or something over an issue or not. There was never any indication whatsoever.
She said also in her letter, costly political gimmicks. What do you think she's referring to there? I know we've got the GST holiday, and the government wants to give a $250 payment to Canadians. Do you know if she's referring to one or the other?
I wouldn't know which one she's referring to, but I'm sure if she's saying that, there may have been some pressure on her to do either A or B, or do both.
We're just talking about confidence, but do you think this opens up a path for the Conservatives to have a successful non-confidence motion in the House?
No, I don't think. I think government will vote whichever way it thinks is best for the party and best for Canadians overall. So if it's something that helps Canadians or helps with the if it helps the constituents in my riding, whether it's the GST break or whether it's the $250 check or anything, anything that helps my constituents, I'll vote in favour of it. If it don't help my constituents, I could vote the other way.
Do you think the Prime Minister can survive this? 2 cabinet ministers leaving in one day, and there's been a string of resignations over the last little while as well.
I think he can survive it. It's basically his decision if he wants to stay or go. And I think he's into it for the long haul. He has told us as a caucus that he's up to the challenge, and he intends to be around for the next election.
Many people expecting the fall economic update today. What were you looking forward to seeing from that update?
Not a lot. I was just interested to know how they were going to square everything with regards to the $250 check and the break on the taxes, and see where it lands to. It's, Chrystia Freeland was the one supposed to give that actual statement, and it would let us know exactly how far in debt the government is at this time. I think there was something like a limit that she was willing to go. I think it was $42 billion deficit or something, and she didn't want to go beyond that. If it does that, I don't know if it goes over that threshold or not. So we'll have to wait and see when the fall economic statement is actually delivered.
Yeah, do you think that might have been the source of disagreement between Freeland and Justin Trudeau?
I don't know. Like I said, they didn't show it like when they were sat in the House, and that was the only time I'd see them together. You know, there was never a snide remark or anything from one to the other. There were plenty of remarks from the Leader of the Opposition, because some Global Mail story or something said they had a falling out, but I didn't see that, so I don't know what falling out was about, or if they indeed had one.
Well, the fall economic statement has been tabled by Government House Leader Karina Gould after Chrystia Freeland's surprise resignation. CBC's Ashley Burke has the details.
A media lockup unlike any other. Journalists showed up to view embargoed copies of the government's fall economic statement just as the finance minister set to deliver it stepped down.
From Finance Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, that she in fact is no longer going to be a finance minister and indeed is resigning from the cabinet.
Amid the bombshell news, the very document stayed shrouded under black sheets for almost 4 hours. It was unclear if it would be released at all until early afternoon. We finally got our hands on this document with about 2 hours rather than 6 to parse through nearly 300 pages of macroeconomic forecasts. And this document is one of the reasons for the split between Freeland and the Prime Minister. Freeland wrote, in the face of Donald Trump's tariff threats, it was important to keep Canada's fiscal powder dry and avoid costly political gimmicks. The budget includes $1.6 billion for a tax break on holiday essentials. In total, there's more than $24 billion in new spending over the next 6 years. And the government didn't stick to its own self-imposed target to keep the deficit down around $40 billion. It's close to $62 billion for the last fiscal year. This financial expert says it's due to one-time costs from COVID liabilities and Indigenous lawsuits.
We're still seeing a relatively high-spending government that is not necessarily keeping enough powder dry for what could happen between now and the next budget.
That uncertainty trumps administration. The government has a $1.3 billion plan to beef up security at Canada's border to respond. The economic projections include what might happen if Trump introduces some tariffs, but doesn't explore what a full-out trade war would look like. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, the Canada Post picket line got a little brighter in Grand Falls, Windsor, when some special visitors stopped by to deliver some holiday spirit earlier this month. Here Now's Troy Turner has the story.
It's a tradition here at the Play, Learn and Grow Child Care Center. And the kids weren't going to let a work stoppage spoil the fun.
We've been open for 13 years, and every year we write the Santa letters with the children, and they walk down and go into the post office and put their letters in the mailbox and visit the postal workers.
A few calls to the unionized workers and a visit to the picket line was scheduled. Not only did they show up with their letters, but with the gift of music, too.
We told the children, and we decided to walk down with them and bring some coffee and donuts for the postal workers. When we got down there, the children sang them a song, a Christmas song, and they got really emotional. It was really, really sweet.
The Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered employees back to work over the weekend after determining both sides were at a standstill. A move postal workers in the province called confusing and upsetting after a difficult month on the picket line.
Got them in the Christmas spirit because, of course, being on strike and, not knowing what Christmas is going to look like for their family, it just kind of shows the true meaning of Christmas.
You're out there, you're in the cold, sometimes you feel like, you're not being acknowledged, or, even though you're getting the corn hunks and the donations and people telling you, but when someone actually shows up on your picket line and you see, 20 children there and they're all excited to see you waving, and it really shows you what the true meaning of Christmas is.
Heading into the holidays, Canada Post workers here say they're very thankful for that warm boost of Christmas kindness from a little group of carolers delivering a lot of heart. Troy Turner, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Well, as you heard earlier in the show, Canada Post workers have been ordered to end their strike and be back on the job tomorrow. 55,000 members of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers have been on the picket lines for about a month. On Sunday, the Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered an end the work stoppage, but the board has ruled the two sides are at an impasse and unlikely to reach a deal before the end of the year. Business groups and consumers have been calling for government to intervene. The strike has interfered with holiday shopping and deliveries. Well, Canadians could see some relief when they fill their grocery carts this holiday season. After years of rising food costs, many prices have stabilized, and shoppers could see a break on one big-ticket dish, the roast turkey. The CBC's Paula Duhacek explains.
CBC News used federal retail data to look at how much more it costs to make a turkey dinner after 5 years inflation. The bad news, since 2019, many common recipes have gotten more expensive. For example, baking a batch of sugar cookies will cost you 38% more than it did 5 years ago. Cooking mashed potatoes will cost you 31% more. And making a tray of dinner rolls from scratch, that'll be about 29% more. The good news is in the last year, the cost of many ingredients has started to stabilize. The median wage has also gone up about 24% since 2019.
We're seeing some slight relief from where we were a year ago, so things aren't getting worse. It's still more expensive to eat a holiday dinner than it was 4 or 5 years ago, but the pressure is coming off a little bit as compared to a year ago.
Shoppers could also get a break this year on what for many people is the most expensive item on their holiday dinner table, the turkey. Federal data shows that so far, turkey prices are trending down this year. Economists say that could be because there are more turkeys available, and they say demand might also be down as shoppers squeezed by the high cost of living avoid the meat case altogether. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
Hi, I'm Rick Mercer with the offer of a lifetime and a very big ask. In less than a year, the 2025 Canada Games are coming to Newfoundland and Labrador, and that means we've got company coming, big time. The numbers are mind-boggling. This coming August, 25,000 people from all across Canada are going to descend on this province for the Games, and every single one of them can't wait to get here. They've heard good things, so we need to ensure they have the time of their life, the games of their life. As a province, we've got to knock this one out of the park. So here's the ask. We need you to represent Team Newfoundland and Labrador at the Games. We need 5,000 volunteers, all ages, all skills. You would not believe the jobs that need to be filled, the experience you will get, the friends you will make. To make these games work, there are so many moving pieces, but the most important piece, the final piece, the mission critical piece is you. Visit the website, join the team.
Okay, so time for a look at the long range. And I remember on Friday you were forecasting a bunch of days sunshine and a little bit of a warm up coming this week. So I hope that is going to pan out still.
Ish. We do have, we definitely have the warm up coming, but it is going to come with a little bit of flurries in the middle of that and some rain as well. So yeah, a little bit of a roller coaster. Let's take a look at what's going on as we head into Tuesday evening and then into Wednesday. So a front's going to move through. It's going to bring some rain with it, but that's also going to bring some warmer temperatures, at least through your first part of Wednesday. Up across Labrador, looking at some flurries. That's going to linger pretty much through the day, especially in the west. Overall daytime highs for you in the west and the north coast will sit into the minus single digits through the day. Otherwise between 0 and about +2 for the rest of the big land, with some sunshine in the mix there for you as well. But note those temperatures across most of the island, at least the eastern half of the island will see temperatures between about 6 to 9 degrees through the day. West Coast, Northern Peninsula, and Southwest Coast will sit somewhere between 3 and about 5 degrees through the day. And again, you're looking at that rain into the afternoon with some sun peeking out for sure as the day goes on. I should say in the beginning of the day, and then some sunshine through the rest of the day. As we head through the overnight and into Thursday morning, we're going to continue to see the flurries and light snow up across Labrador. Then our next weather maker moves in through the day on Thursday. This will likely start as some snow, change over to rain in the east, or should stay as rain in the east through Thursday evening, depending on the track of this system. For now, eastern Newfoundland will stay on the rainy side of this, with some accumulating snow certainly possible through central and the west coast. Same thing for the northern peninsula. Definitely have a few days to figure that out. But at this point, that's what it's looking like. Now, temperatures for eastern Newfoundland are going to be sitting in the double digits. There's a good chance we could see 10 to 12 degrees as our daytime highs. You head further west, so temperatures will be much cooler than that. Single digits, 3 to 4 degrees, even cooler for the west coast, hence why you'll see that accumulating snow through the first part of the day. Temperatures across Labrador will sit in the minus single digits, with the exception of Lab West, where you'll hover around minus 12 through the day. Here's the roller coaster I was talking about. So Thursday, 12 degrees. Friday, back down to 1 with the potential for a few flurries. And then Saturday, right back up to 11 degrees with some rain and potentially some windy conditions as well. For central Newfoundland, you are looking at a similar forecast. There's a drop down on Friday, back up on Saturday. And same thing for western Newfoundland, although you'll see more on the snowy side of everything, I should say. Eastern Labrador, you're going to cool off as we head into the end of the weekend. Looking pretty decent, though, some flurries, and much cooler up across western Labrador, dropping to about minus 19 to minus 20, and your overnight lows in nearing minus 30 on Saturday night. Our weather photo of the day in Winterbrook. Again, this is the moon, not the sun.
Really?
Yeah, it was a beautiful full moon this weekend, and Philip captured that great shot. If you have any that you'd like to share with us, you can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
I would never have guessed that's the moon.
I know, it's just that bright.
Yeah, amazing.
Awesome.
All right, well, that's it for us on this Monday. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.